Hello.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
Fine, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Hi, Marcel. So my name's Rachel Lighty. I am the Director of Compliance Education here at FutureFeed and also the one who does these trainings for now. Um, have either of you gone through any of the other FutureFeed training sessions, or are you new to FutureFeed? Kind of tell me about where you're at in your FutureFeed journey.
This is Chad. I'm just beginning. I did join your end user Tuesday, and I'll be on the second part of that Thursday, just trying to, or in an hour, I guess,
Yeah.
right? That is. So just trying to get a head start on thing. I know it's a lot, so just getting everything I can. We're going to
Sure.
be in the future on this end of it as well, but so just
Okay.
going to be using and then the service provider.
Okay. Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to get my screen set up. And you are a service provider, of course, you said,
Uh,
right?
we're going to be headed in that direction, not immediately, but I figured if the
Mm.
training was available and you didn't mind, I would just get as much information as I can.
Yeah, for sure. I am struggling with my computer right now, so give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. So you could see my screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right. So, well, and how about you, Marcel? Are you able to hear me? And it's okay if you don't have a mic or you're not able to speak. Can you let me know in the chat? Are you able to? Let's see, where did I put you? I seriously don't understand how I lose so many screens on my computer. Okay, there. Okay. All right, Marcel. Thank you. All right. I will just, I guess, let you guys know I am on a Mac computer and I'm normally a Windows user, and I think that's my struggle right now is I'm not used to like where things go. So, um, so we are going to start today. This is service provider training. And really, in this first session here, I would ask Marcel if you've not gone to the end user training. I would ask that you go through that, and it's okay that you're here today. It's just in the end user training, I'd like everyone to go to that. And then in this training, there's two sessions. In this first session, I'm going to show you some tools that are available to our managed service providers and our partners, and how they can make your life easier with managing multiple compliance um, packages and like multiple consulting clients. Okay. So do recommend you sign up for those, please. Because there I just kind of talk about, how to use a tool, and everybody needs to know how to use the tool. And here it's more how do you use the tool to the best of its ability to manage many clients. Okay. And so the first thing I want to start talking about is what I call, or what we call, the template subscription. And what the template subscription is, here, and I'm showing my FutureFeed login, and I have access to all of these compliance packages. Okay, so Each one of these is going to produce one system security plan, one system poem. It's for one boundary, one enclave or one environment. And because I have access to all those environments, I see them here. So as managed service providers, when um Chad, when you get a bunch of clients, you're gonna, whatever clients you have access to in their environment, you'll see them all listed here, and it's really easy to toggle between. You just click, and then go back up here in the right corner. There's a My Companies, and then you can, go back and click to another company. Okay, so
Okay.
um, what our template environment does is you purchase one environment and title it template environment. And then you build out that environment. So it would be a regular FutureFeed environment like this, but you build it out to include any data, documents uh, in the assess area. You could build out the assess page and these summary notes here to be templated. If part of your services are to help your clients build a system security plan, or you build it for them, but they need to design the requirement, how the requirements are being implemented, and you help them with that, I'm sure if you've been doing it a minute, you're going to have some templated summary notes, right? Because you do kind of write these things up the same way. And so you could write this narrative here out real templated. Actually, if I go to, here's 311, here's like an example of a templated narrative, right? We're keeping it not company specific. So I'm not saying my client by name. But the company has implemented 311, logical access to in-scope information systems is strictly limited to authorized users, processes, and devices. And here's how. And so I turned it red because I don't know, like, and I used to do consulting, so tell me if I'm going into this too much, but this just happens to be, I recently added this for a meeting yesterday, so why not cover it? But when I was doing consulting, I didn't know what access control mechanisms were going to be in place. Small clients are going to use the local machines login mechanism. Bigger clients, they're going to have domain controllers and, you know, be able to manage their devices from the domain level, right? So, but in general, everyone has network layer access if they do have a network, or system layer access if they have applications that are going to be storing, processing, or transmitting CUI data, FCI data that you want them to focus on, calling that out in your template and narrative so they can think about those things is essential. But like Prevail itself, or Office 365, are you putting CUI data in there? So think about the applications, and then what do you have for monitoring and alerting for when users have access to your environment, right? So I'm not going to go over this, but you can see how you can turn this stuff templated. Where has something been defined? Oh, call out the document. And in your template environment, you could build these out. And so every client you bring on board and you set up FutureFeed environments for, you clone that templated environment. And then when they log into their FutureFeed environment, it's pre-populated with everything you want in there. And
Got
so,
it. Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying understand. Yep.
Okay.
That's really good. Yep.
And now I'm just kind of talking to you about the templated, just to kind of highlight some other things. Just the template subscription, okay? So of course you could fill out this. Um, you could even pre-fill out the, objective level narratives for your clients. You could have statuses marked met, not met. So another example is, I guess let's go into the actual control. Vulnerability scanning, managed service providers, most of them that I'm speaking to, they a good chunk of them are performing vulnerability scanning for their clients, right? So there would be some what's being referred to as inheritance for your client. I prefer shared responsibility, and I think that jives well with, the document you have to have, which is a customer responsibility matrix. Um, but if you're performing services that are helping that client implement or meet any of the NIST 800-171 objectives, then that's referred to as inheritance or shared responsibility. And when your client goes into an assessment, if you're a managed service provider and you are not FedRAMP moderate, essentially, then you're going to be involved in that client's assessment. If you have a CMMC certification, your level of involvement may be reduced, but it does not mean you're not going to be involved. It's just can be reduced. But the only acceptable, um, I would say closer to true inheritance is FedRAMP, environments. I'm an assessor, I'm a lead CCA, and when we go assess and evaluate, your environment, and let's say you're using GCC high, I'm not going to evaluate GCC's high's implementation, their side of the implementation, right? If it, I'm not going to go test out the Microsoft facility security controls at the data center where your data is being housed, you know. So that's more closer to inheritance and using the word properly. For, everybody else, it's you're going to be involved with your client's assessment to some degree, to include having to sit through interviews and speak on, the processes and services you're providing your client and how you're doing them and how they're meeting the requirements or helping the client meet the requirements. And all of that discussion should really align with what you put in your customer responsibility matrix. Um, so, for example, if you're doing vulnerability scanning, of course, you'd have a summary narrative. My company does vulnerability scanning for the company, my client, keeping it templated, right? Using this tool, we follow this process, whatever level of detail you want to put in there. And every client who pays for your service or pays for your vulnerability scanning services would then get that statement. And then you could also mark those objectives, the ones that actually talk about performing the scanning, not the ones defined. So the defining still needs to come from your client. They need to define their frequency. You can help them define that frequency, but the frequency is determined on, level of risk and, how big the company is and how much data, how big their environment is, and, level of exposure then is greater. And so you should probably be scanning more frequently, you know what I mean? So you can help them with that kind of discussion, but ultimately your client needs to be the one to define uh that requirements parameter and approve it, and then you do it. So in here it'd be, D. You could have it marked as met, and then fully inherited for company by ABC consultant, whatever your company's. name is gonna be. See the customer responsibility. And that's honestly, me personally, that's where I'd leave it. Um, let's talk about this statement here. Um, Customer responsibility matrices are required. They are required during a CMMC assessment. Um, Even from FedRAMP, they're required. FedRAMP has a CRM as part of its body of evidence. And so your customer responsibility matrix should be the document that lists out your services that you provide to that client and talks about how they are meeting or helping the client meet the requirements. And it will go into some detail about, you know, the process or the level of responsibility and who needs to communicate what to who and what document are we communicating that in and where has it been approved, some detail, right? Um, just a little trick, if you don't provide enough detail, the assessors will definitely want to keep poking. If you provide a lot of detail, they'll poke. There's like a happy medium, but um in your CRM is where you put that detail. So why repeat that information here? In compliance management, I would recommend to you all that you just have one source of truth. Just like in data management, there's one system of record, right? Have one source of truth when it comes to your compliance documents. So I like to use this so your client's good. Um, and that way, if you as a service provider make an update to your CRM, maybe you change the process you follow, or you completely change the tool that you use to vulnerability scan, and now it has more capabilities. I don't know. So, like, let's say you make a change to your CRM. Well, then your client doesn't have to update their future feed environments statement here every time you make a change. Okay. I would just have your clients say for any inheritance, including your own, or if they have other external service providers, even the FedRAMP ones, I'd say just see the CRM, because the CRM is going to have that detail the assessor is going to want. And then you don't have to worry about duplicating information and wasting the time and having like issues related to like combating information if it doesn't get updated everywhere. So, um, anyway, so the templated environment you could see. I think you guys get it. You could pre-fill out the RACI model. So this consultant objective, if you're their consultant, then go ahead and tag your team in here. Okay, whatever it is, MSSP support team. And how you create these teams, if you haven't sat through the end user training yet, then where you create your teams and you create your roles and you define your people is over here in the people area. So under here, teams, roles, think about the teams and the roles at your company as the service provider. I'm sure you guys have like a standard team or person that are in contact with the client if there's for work related, so build out your teams, build out the roles in your templated environment. And then in the requirements areas, you can go ahead and tag your team, right? Or the role if you want to. Also, you can pre-associate evidence. Okay. So, for example, if your company is doing that vulnerability scanning, is there some sort of vulnerability scanning process that's documented that your client needs to follow? Some sort of process that talks about how we're communicating vulnerability scan results and um you know how to who's responsible for remediating them, and if there needs to be a group effort on remediation, what's that communication, and um and how fast do you remediate vulnerabilities? What's that timeline you got to aim for. So you'll probably have some documents like that, and you can have those pre-loaded into your client's environment and linked to the exact requirements like you see here. Like if you're providing the vulnerability scanning procedures, you would have them uploaded here and linked to this requirement, so your client doesn't have to worry about that. Test in FutureFeed, you log your client's security assets. Your vulnerability scanner is part of their environment. So when you're working with your client to list out, um, the assets that are inside their environment, inside their compliance scope, it should include the vulnerability scanner that your company maybe owns and manages and utilizes, because it is a system that is logically accessing their CUI environment for the purpose of security. And it's a security protection asset. You have to categorize it as a security protection asset, but it is part of their boundary. And so you would list out your vulnerability scanner tool that you're currently using. You'd make an entry for it in this tools and service area, as you would any other. Let's go down to it. Here. So here's my vulnerability scanning management tool. You see how there's a CRM? I'm saying, looking at it from the client's perspective right now, I'm saying that in my environment, I have Tenable Nessus, and it is being managed by a local IT company. So so you could set that picture for your client. You would link your CRM here. Um, and maybe you want to name it differently. You could put MSSP inherited. So that way your clients don't really ever have to like click on it and focus on it, maybe. You'll find little things like that that you'll want to do. Um, but yeah, what else? Did we cover everything else? I think you get it. Preload the evidence, the artifacts, define the roles, load your templates, tools. Um, Another thing you could do if you're, I mean, what are we looking on time? Okay, so we're good on time. Something I would recommend you guys working on doing to make FutureFeed easy for all your client engagements is, I mean, not only do you have to build out the FutureFeed templated environment with all of that inheritance and that shared responsibility and the documents and the evidence that are involved and the tools. Um, you'll want to also start thinking about standardizing the process and developing a process for working with every client. How do you want to work with every client with FutureFeed? Okay. Do you want them to do a lot of the work in FutureFeed and you just going in and validating it? Or are you primarily responsible for filling out FutureFeed for them and they just need to validate and approve it? And so you'll have to just work with them and talk to them, and my recommendation would be define it yourself, define it and document it, so every client you bring on board, you have some training with them. You have a training session, an onboarding training session with them. And you say, "Hey, here's the tool we're going to use. This is FutureFeed." I would still recommend they sign up for the end user training. Have all of your clients go through end user training, because again, we're just training about how to use a tool. Doesn't matter the role or the position you're in. It's good to know how to use it. Um, but then you're going to have your own training too of, okay, here's how we like to use the tool, and this is how we communicate in the tool, and here's how we do task assignments in the tool. For example, so let me show you the task capability. Um, Let's go to that vulnerability scanning procedure actually. So here I have a vulnerability scanning procedure. Let me think this through real quick. Yeah, this is a good example. So um you could do this in your template environment. You could pre-build tasks, okay? So that way, and you can assign the task to a role. But let me see. Do I have one where there's nobody assigned? Let's see. I don't. Um, I'll show you. Let me go in and make that person not there. Okay, I just removed that person. So, where was I? All right. So here, I have this task and no one's assigned. That's what yours will look like in your templated environment because you'll pre-build out these tasks related to how you want your clients to engage with the tool and what information you want from them. And it won't be assigned to anybody, but as soon as you clone that environment, then you would go into that client's environment and go to the roles and assign someone to that role. So now your client has all of these tasks immediately assigned to them when they first get access to their future feed. Tasks related to, hey, please tell me or please define for me the limit of unsuccessful logon attempts. In the document policy related to unsuccessful logon attempts. So let's say you're going to put it in your access control policy. Then over here under tasks, you can create a task, um, review and approve limit of, okay. I would even recommend in the notes here having a templated definition. So here's what we want them to review. Please review and approve this. The limit of unsuccessful logon attempts is 5 attempts in 15 minutes, yada, yada, yada. Edit if you want, but approve by signing and completing this task. So here I'm asking them, hey, because it's up to your clients to define all those parameters, right? Like what's the limit of login attempts, what's the period of inactivity, um, all that stuff. How frequently you want a vulnerability scan. And so you need as a service provider, I recommend that you guys get that approval documented somewhere for, just legal purposes and no pointing fingers of, oh, well, we didn't define that. We don't want that, So just get it approved, get it documented very clearly. Yes, this is what we want. Okay. So I would go and take, all those questions that you ask every provider. For example, I'm sure you ask everyone, hey, what do you want? Actually, if you're doing the vulnerability scanning, I'm sure you ask every client, okay, how frequently do you want me to run the vulnerability scans? Weekly, monthly, every other week, 10 days, So what time do you want me to run the vulnerability scan? So I'm sure there's like standard questions you ask every client and turn them all into tasks. So then once they get access to their environment, it's pre-populated and you've gone in, you've assigned them to the role, and now they have all these questions and all these tasks that they have to review and approve and answer. So how you would do this, then you sign it to, I forget who was it, AO. So you sign it and then this is a one-time thing, submit. But you're going to have to train them where to find, how to work within a task. So they're going to go to my end user training and learn the basics. And then you, depending on how you want to use the tasks, if you even want to use them, you'll have to just kind of talk them through that. So then what they should do is go in here and click on this task. And that wasn't the task, was it? It was this one. Click on the task. And so here it is. Um, wait, this is not the one I made though. It was this one. Okay. I guess I've done this before. So anyway, here's my task. So do you want them, you could just easily mark them, say approved. Or if they changed it, what did they change it to? What have you? And save and complete. All right, looks good. So they're approving. Everything looks good. They want 15-minute uh or a 5 attempt login with 15-minute lockout session. And let's say it doesn't look good. This one here, let me go back to the task. This one here, if they click on it and they're like, oh, we don't like this 5 attempts. We want to do it, 30-minute lockout instead of 15. If they don't want to mark it complete and say it's approved, then they just go in here and they'll change it and then they'll reassign it back to the other person. They'll reassign it to someone at your company. Like what I'm trying to get at is if you need to have that back and forth consulting conversation with your client on any of those questions you ask them or any of the tasks that they have assigned to them, if they don't want to close it out because they don't know what to do or they need your review, they just reassign that task. They'll assign it back to you. Um, if you had a role, you define your role, whatever it would be, MSP consultant, consultant lead, like whatever that role is, they'd assign it to you. And now when you log into FutureFeed, you have a new task and they'll look and they'll say, okay, they don't like our recommended definition. They want to change it to that. Am I good with it? Make some notes. Yeah, that's still secure. It looks good with us. We can do that. And then they'll, go back in, reassign it to them, and now they'll approve it. And then once they approve it over here in the evidence, you have that approved signature, date, timestamp of whatever that definition you had. Okay. So the tasks I would recommend turn in your templated environment, all the common things that everybody needs to define or ask or, yeah, turn them into tasks under the appropriate things. So here we're asking about an access control parameter, so we're in the policy. If I'm asking about a vulnerability scanning parameter, well then I may be in my vulnerability scanning procedure template that I need to fill out with that client. So I think I've said enough about the templated environment and like how you can pre-build it out. Do you guys have any questions?
Nope, that's great so far. Thank you. Very helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah, regarding everything's really good.
Okay. All right. So that's called the template subscription, and that's available to all of our partners, all of our external service provider partners. And the other thing I'm going to show you is also available to you guys. Um it's called the template library or the document library. So as you're aware, under documents, if you don't remember this from the training, every user of FutureFeed has access to the templates that FutureFeed has provided. So if they click on this populate button here, um, there's 15. 15. Oh, wow. See, is it Friday yet? There's 55. Okay, there's 55 templates everybody has access to. What you guys could have is your own document library. And so you see how this one's FutureFeeds. Here's this compliancy IT company. They're selling their toolkit. Here you could buy, this is another library I have for training and testing out stuff. But yours would say whatever your company name is library. And so then all of your clients would have the ability to access your full suite of document templates or whatever you want to share with them. Whatever you publish, they would see it here. And then they can, as you're probably aware, they can either copy that document locally. What that means is this authorized remote access list, if I'm going to copy it, I'm going to create a copy of it locally. And it's my responsibility to maintain it and manage it and update it. If I link a document instead of copy, what this means is every time you, as the external service provider or the owner of that document, make a change to it. So let's say you wanted to update your a policy template, and add a new section or call it a different, give it a different title. In your document library, you would update it, and then all of your customers, all of your clients who have linked to it, not copied, but linked to it, then they're going to get that update in theirs as well. It's not going to uh, delete any data they put into it. So if they have filled out this authorized remote access list and it has a list of people in it, and you go in and make an update to the template and you change maybe the instructions or the title, your client's document is going to update and it'll have that new information, but it's not going to remove that listing of users that they've defined in that document. It doesn't remove any other data. It just adds. It's a push, not a overwrite or merge. I guess it's a merge, but it's not an overwrite. So you could have your own document library, and what it looks like on the administrative side is never mind. I don't know what's going on here. Let me stop sharing. I'm not sharing anymore. I don't know. My Chrome just quit, so hold on. I gotta open everything back up. Why does it keep doing that? Almost there. Almost there. Get back in that environment. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen? Okay. So
Yes.
yeah, I had to log back into everything. So as I was showing you, all right, so you got these 55. So here's what it looks like on my end as the administrator of that document library. It looks like this, and my 55 documents consist of, 4 procedures, a bunch of policies. Here's how they're broken up. Add this up, should be 55. And then or a little bit more if they're not published. You see over here, you got like the ability to control version. You could push. Hold on, let me think about. So let me see if I click into this. You see how it's published. I can unpublish things. Um, And so you're going to be able to control your documents in this document library. And I'm not going to get started here quite yet, but just to see some of the things that you can push. If you mark this document as required or universal, what that does and when I log back in, I log back into the wrong one. So let's go here. This is a fake environment, so I could actually play around with this. So let me show you something over here. So here I'm in FutureFeed. All your users see this. I'm going to go to the documents section and I'm going to go to the procedures area. And let me just go ahead and delete this quick. Okay. So right now in my environment under pending documents, I just have these two documents. Over here, if I mark one of these documents as universal/required, what happens is every one of my clients that is subscribed or linked to my document library is going to be automatically push that document. So this would probably be good to do for customer responsibility matrices. Actually, I'm going to be doing the FutureFeed one this like this here soon, and you'll see that in the announcement inside your app. But if you want to push documents to all of your clients, forcing them to like have that in their document subway stop, then that's what this field is. So if I click this box now, I'm gonna, hey, you'll create a new document in every client. Irreversible, yes, confirm. I go over here and in my environment now, scroll down to procedures. So there is that procedure now. I just created that. So you can mark certain things as required. And when you clone the environment for your client, so it's all pre-populated, it will also have in a different way controlling the documents that are for every client. Other things you could do, you could control if it's read only. So if you wanted to push like a document to your client and you don't want them to edit it, then you can make it non-editable. So think of like service level agreements or just service descriptions, anything that you guys want to supply, you don't want them to edit, but they need to have it as CRMs. You can lock them down. So essentially they're PDFs. And then you can tag them. So if you have an access control policy that your company wrote and you know it meets these 5 requirements, then when you upload that template in here, you're going to tag it to those 5 requirements, helping your clients build out their body of evidence. And then the last thing I'll show you in here is the summary notes capability. So this is also available in the document library setup. Here is where you can summary notes. So going back here into a control, these summary notes here, if you want to control them from one location and push and update all that stuff, to do that is over here. So 311, here's what it looks like on my end. That's how I pushed it to that environment. So you could write up your templated narratives here and control them. If I updated this, let me just make it think I updated by hitting some spaces. All right, I'm gonna hit publish. Now, if I want to push that version, I can and I can choose which client I want to push it to. All of them, one of them. This is me. This is and I'm going to push it to me. I guess I can't show you that I actually took because I just put spaces. That was silly. But anyway, it's in here. So you can also control the guidance, or you can't control the guidance, you can add guidance. Okay, so what that looks like for your user and what you're probably used to seeing is in the assess area here, in this book icon, the guidance. Normally, everybody has this one, this one, this one, this one. It stops at references. but you can have a tab specific for your company, and it could be, you know, your company's guidance page. And it's going to talk about how you recommend 311 being implemented, or how you help your clients implement them. You know, any data you want, you can put in here, and how that looks on the administrative side is um, here. This is where you control, and you know, each guidance, every control can have its own guidance. Um, right here. So if you don't want to turn all those questions, if you don't want to turn all those questions that you have for your clients, like, or all the things that you need them to define, put them in a guidance, put them in a list, a bullet, and then put it in the guidance here and make it say something like, these are all the things you need to define them, and email your compliance lead or something. So I'm not sure. You'll have to play around with it and just use it to the best of your ability. But it does give you quite a bit of power, communicating power, program, process, project, communicating power. This would be information you want every client to have and follow and, you know of. It won't be able to be changed specific to each client. Uh-oh. Did I close out of it? So that, any questions with the document library?
No, that looks great.
Let's see if I can get back in there. All right, and that's all I had to cover today. So you see here, I guess I was trying to show you before I closed out that you can control the clients who have access to your environment. So that obviously this is like, let's go to that testing environment, Tonka. So here's all my clients that have access to this. And you can control access if you're the administrator for your package. So, all right. Well, if there's no other questions, we can go ahead and end the call right now. And what for those of you who haven't gone through the end user training, please do that. That's where we're going to cover basic how, you know, how to use all the capabilities in FutureFeed. So, if you don't have any other questions, I will drop.
Yeah, greatly appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yep, thank you. See you in a little bit.
See you in a bit.